right. Well, Paola's agent has been in contact, and today she is the one with the hard out. So we're going to respect that time. It's going to be great. To begin with, Paola.
Yes.
I have a question for you. It's an important question, something that happens to all of us from time to time. What song are you most likely to have stuck in your head for no reason at all?
We don't talk about Bruno right now at the moment.
I don't know that song at all.
From Encanto?
Nope.
Oh, you haven't been blessed by watching Encanto yet.
No, see, this is the challenge of not having small children that are like my own children or nieces or nephews. I have some small cousins, but they're even getting a little bit big, and I don't get to see them to watch Disney movies on the regular.
Yeah, that's the one. That
we don't talk about Bruno.
Or the fact that I, for a week straight, only listened to the soundtrack while working in the office over and over again.
Why are you listening to the soundtrack so often?
Because it's addicting. It's addicting. Even the song, one of the songs actually made it on the radio too.
Is this the new Let It Go?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually, it's bigger than Let It Go.
Wow.
It actually has played more than Let It Go.
All right.
I think partly it's also because people have more access to Spotify than they did when Frozen came out. Frozen, I don't know.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Are you sure?
I don't remember I myself on Spotify a lot when that came out, so I played it on repeat on YouTube. So
okay.
I think now everybody just has it.
Yeah.
Like they're just all streaming music more than they were when Frozen did come out. So I'm just going to say that. But yes, it is. It has beat out Let It Go.
Wow. Interesting. All right. I didn't know that.
La Familia Madrigal.
La Familia Madrigal.
Yes.
From Encanto. We don't talk about Bruno.
You know what?
Now, why don't they talk about Bruno?
Do you want me to tell you? Everybody probably listening already knows why they don't talk about Bruno, but you need to know why they don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, because I don't know the story at all.
Oh, you need to watch it then. It has a lot of beautiful religious undertones, but it's about family and brokenness, and the idea that though everything in a home looks nice and everybody's got their gifts and stuff, there are like broken relationships that exist.
Okay.
And it's the broken relationships that need to be mended and addressed and not just like swept under the rug. You don't talk about that one cousin that did that one thing and you just kind of like.
So is that Bruno?
Bruno was known to have a psychic ability, and he had made a prediction that seemed
How about a psych ability?
A psych ability?
Psychic ability, psych ability. I'm combining words.
That's
see what I did.
Fungible.
Fungible's a real word. I promise. It's a real word.
I personally thought you combined words for a second because I was like, what two words did he combine to make fungible? Anyways, I learned something new today. But yeah, so the whole movie is premised around this guy named Bruno was one of the sons, one of three children for this Familia Madrigal. You have the grandmother who's the matriarch. It takes place in Colombia. So it's actually kind of cool how they take in the culture in that area. And his prophecy kind of speaks about the demise of the family. And then he was just shunned. So he left the family. Because
he was being shunned.
Yeah, he was being shunned and rejected. And or like he had spoken different prophecies over other people and they just thought that he was there to harm them. So it is interesting. So it is about reconciliation, forgiveness. It's about overcoming your own pride even in family, learning when to say, I'm sorry, I've messed up. What does love look like and reconciliation look like?
Nice.
In the midst of seemingly on the outside looks like a put together family, but deep inside everybody is carrying the weight of the family differently. So one daughter experiences her powerful gift is strength. So she can carry like 7 donkeys and it's like flowers for her. But her character alludes to somebody who just takes on the weight of family life and can't break. I can't show my weakness. I can't show anybody what I'm actually feeling underneath because they need me in order for us to be stable.
Right.
Another one
they
is
need me to carry the 7 donkeys.
They need me to carry. Another one is stressed by perfectionism.
Hey, let's be really honest. Those donkeys symbolize the family, don't they?
Aren't they all a bunch of?
Get it?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that
got
was funny.
it.
Okay. All right. I made a really good joke. That was wonderful. Probably the funniest thing you're gonna hear all day.
It was so good. Oh man, that was awesome. So
do you know what madrigal singers are? So we're talking about the Familia Madrigal.
Yeah.
So the madrigal singers would be people who there's lots of choirs out there that would be called the madrigal singers of this university or this particular organization or something, and they specialize usually in music from the Middle Ages leading up to, like, through the Renaissance, and so they sing lots of choral pieces, classical kind of things, but part of their reason for existing is to try to promote especially the music of those time periods that are like tradition. So like the popular tradition.
Wow.
So kind of folk music, but not really folk.
Okay.
But like this music that's kind of been passed on for a long time. Yeah, they specialize in that.
Okay.
It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Familia Madrigal and they're singing stuff. I wonder if there's any connection.
They're always
or
singing
not.
Stuff. I mean, the whole family becomes a choir at some point. At various points.
No, there might not be any actual connection there. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. So that's what gets stuck in my head as of recently.
All right. I was asking because today, as happens far more often than I am.
You were singing a song during Mass in your head.
No, I wasn't singing. It wasn't during Mass. It's Kissed by a Rose by Seal.
I'd have to play that to know what it is.
Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Baby! The more I get of you, the stranger it feels.
Oh, that song, yes.
Yeah, so like that's what happens.
Oh yeah, that's a good song.
It's a great song. I don't know why though, because it like pops in my head. And I definitely have not listened to that song since like 1998.
That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, let me know if you ever had this happen with your sibling, if there was some sibling kinetic energy going on. So I would wake up in the morning growing up and I would tell my sister, hey, what song are you thinking in your head? And so she would say a certain song and I would respond like, wait, that's so weird. I'm also like, we woke up thinking of the same song in our head.
Yeah, I had this happen back when the Summer Olympics were in London. I remember texting my brother and I said, I'm watching Olympic handball. I've never seen this sport. It's amazing. And he texted back, I'm watching too. It's great. And then for the next week, we had this kind of ongoing text conversation about Olympic handball, which is kind of like a combination between soccer and basketball.
Handball's fun. Played it in middle school.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And so we were kind of going back and forth about that for a while. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was like, I texted him. We're talking. I'm watching this. I am too. Of course you are. What else would you be doing?
Well,
why would I expect anything other than that?
It's so interesting though. Isn't that like interesting? But you never had the situation where like you just be hanging around together in the same room, and then somehow, I don't know, this happened often with my sister Wendy, but we would just be thinking of the same song.
See, we didn't have to think about songs because there was always music going on in the house. Right. My dad's a musician, so he was playing music, or there was music on the stereo or something like that. So there was always something going on. We didn't have to think about our own songs.
That's true.
It was already happening.
All right.
Yeah. It was great.
It was a random tangent. I was just curious. Don't worry about it.
No, it's good. It's good. I like it.
So why'd you ask me that question?
I was just curious if I was the only one who would have strange songs stuck in their head for no apparent reason. You at least have a reason for your song to be stuck in your head. You've been listening to a lot. You have young nieces and nephews who are into this movie at the moment.
Yeah, the question is, why am I, a woman over 30 listening to this song on repeat?
Look, for the same reason that Taylor Swift sneaks into my Spotify playlist all the time.
Because yes, but hers isn't sometimes geared there's towards music that's children.
Yeah, but sometimes there's just music that's good.
Yeah.
Sure, it's in a children's movie, but it's good. And look, every Disney movie always has something that's also thrown in there for the parents.
Oh, for sure.
Thrown in there for the adults.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I watch them still.
So here's the thing that I've noticed a lot with many of the Disney movies of late. It feels like, and I could be exaggerating this, but kind of one of the philosophical issues that I might take with the Disney company on the way that they're producing these movies. A lot of times you have the young protagonist, hero, heroine, whatever that figure is, who is basically rejecting or is being rejected by the elders, the parents or somebody else, because they have tradition and the younger one doesn't want that tradition.
Yes.
And so there's sort of a spirit of reject the tradition, reject where you come from. And then there's sort of a weird, we're coming back to that tradition eventually. We're coming to understand and appreciate that tradition. But it's always the ones who have the tradition that are wrong.
Yes.
They're always the bad guys.
I'm with you.
And I don't think that works. Mm-hmm. Like in the big picture, that doesn't work, because we have traditions for a reason. That's where we come from. And as much as there might be a certain type of rebellion that occurs, and all of us have a certain moment of rebellion where we push back against the things that we were raised with. Mm-hmm. I don't know. To me, there's always that little, why are you always insisting on rejecting the tradition? Mm-hmm. Or that this one, the protagonist, is the one who's going to change the tradition and make something brand new and better. And so it's always the rejection of tradition that leads to the good.
You know what's scarier? It
doesn't always happen.
I'm noticing a different end, and it's not just that. I think a lot of TV shows now feel like they are responsible for teaching and parenting children more than parent themselves. And the way that I saw this, there was a show that I remember growing up on Disney that was called The Proud Family. Mm-hmm. You probably, you're just like older than me, so you just didn't watch it. So anyways, this show was funny. It was about like an all-American, African-American family growing up in like a suburb area, and it was just comical. Like, it was hilarious. Yeah. And so they revamped it and put it out on Disney about a month ago. And I think they're speaking now to the millennial crowd who grew up watching this show. Sure. And they're like, oh, hey, like, check it out again.
I knew Kim Possible and Ren Stevens in high school.
Wait, what?
The actress who played those parts very briefly went to St. Joe's High School. And I knew her when we were in high school.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And then she got the
Christy
parts.
Carlson Romano.
Yeah, then she got the parts and left the school because she was working.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
Okay, tangent along with that, the Hallow app actually had her do a part where she was promoting the Advent 25, like that prayer challenge.
Oh, cool.
So she has been coming into her faith, and she posted that on Instagram, like, I'm Catholic, but, I'm taking this as an opportunity to get back to what that really means. Cool. So I'm going to do this Advent challenge on the Hallow app. And I was like, word? I had no idea she was cool. Catholic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool. I didn't know she was part of the Hallow app.
Yeah, yes.
The Hallow app. That's HALLOW. Hallow. It's a great app, and you should definitely download it. They don't pay us to say that.
No, but you sound like Matt Fred when he's promoting the Hallow app. Except you don't have the Australian accent to go along with it.
Hallow. That's HALLOW. Hallow. Download today, and you can listen to me, Matt Fred. How's that? Was that good?
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
I still say, honestly, wow. Like, one of the coolest moments of my life was at that Life Teen convention years ago when I was standing with a bunch of other priests getting ready for Mass, and he walked by and he looked at me and goes, "Great beard, Father."
Oh
it was awesome. Yeah, I felt pretty great.
That is so great.
Yeah. Okay, Matt Frad, you can find him on Pints with Aquinas. That's Pints with Aquinas and Matt Frad.
Okay, now we just went on 1,000 tangents. That was remarkable.
That was a good one.
I think you could do a whole episode of like Roar Like the Lamb in an Australian accent.
No, it's hard to maintain for that long.
I see you were struggling. You were like focusing on it.
You've got to think about it. So when I was in seminary, I was with several guys who were from Australia.
Okay.
The Australians had started coming to the North American College because while Australia is technically, I think, considered still mission territory for the Catholic Church has a very strong presence.
Yeah.
But I think technically they're still considered this. Anyway, they don't have enough to have their own college in Rome. And so the Australians were going for a while to the Urbanianum, which is the Propaganda Fide, the propagation of the faith seminary. But the majority of the guys in the Propaganda Fide seminary are from Southeast Asia and from Africa. Mm-hmm. And so culturally, the differences were very significant for the Australians. And so the Australian bishops spoke with the American bishops and asked if they could send their guys to the American college, where culturally we'd be much more similar. There's obvious differences culturally. Australia has its own unique culture and everything, but at least linguistically, culturally, there'd be many similarities. What was fun was that by having these Australian guys around, you got to learn all kinds of Australian slang, and you got to figure out how to talk about different things. So it was a lot of fun. But you also learned that there are different types of Australian accents.
Oh, just like
one of the guys described it as there's a teeth in accent and there's a teeth out accent. He said the teeth out accent, think Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife.
Oh.
Right, that's teeth out. And then the teeth in accent is like a more reserved, oh, good day, mate. How you going?
Wow. Huh.
A bit more like this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. That sounds okay. I can see that because I had a friend in college who was from New Zealand, and he was kind of pursed in that way.
New Zealand tends to be more of a teeth in accent too. I think. Yeah.
It sounded like him.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, so I never knew about that, but I got to learn all of that, and actually you got to see it with the different guys.
Okay.
Because some guys had more the teeth out, some guys had the more teeth in accent. Fascinating. Okay.
So I love how that's going to help me get back to this thing that I was going to say about the Proud Family now.
The Proud Family.
After a super long tangent. I was astonished at the first episode because you're talking about rejection of traditionalism or rejection of tradition in general. Now you have this whole show that from the very beginning is trying to speak of, to put it straightforward, it was like teaching sexual identity in the first episode.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm like, this is on Disney Plus. Like, this is it. And the commentary that I see on a lot of secular media is like, I wish I had this when I was younger so I would not be like questioning or struggling and moving in those areas, and how we have replaced the authority of teaching people and their identities and how God made them, and we've left it to the media to be that parent.
Oh yeah. Well,
and
not just to the media, but now you have groups that are pushing an agenda and insisting that the government has to guarantee that this gets taught in schools.
Yes.
And there's a danger with that because when you're forcing something to be taught that doesn't actually first of all, as Catholics, we have an integrated understanding of the human person.
Right.
And we have a coherent way of teaching it. This is where I think Catholic schools really are called upon to strongly teach that integrated way of living and the beauty of an integrated personhood.
Yeah.
That who we are, body, soul, spirit, who we are in terms of the way that we think, the way that we view the world, who we are in our sexuality, all of these things. It's so important to have that and have a good and healthy understanding of it. But when you're promoting something that doesn't correspond to the reality of my biology, or that corresponds only to what I want,
right,
you're going to end up with deeper questions or with damage being done.
Right.
And unfortunately, what a lot of these agendas are doing is trying to force people who have not yet reached a level of appropriate maturity. They're trying to teach children things that they've not yet reached the appropriate developmental level to actually be able to understand.
Exactly.
Which then actually causes them deeper confusion.
Yeah.
Because they're being told one thing that doesn't correspond to the reality that they experience. They're too young to understand the reality that they experience, and they don't need to at that level, at that particular moment. They need to understand their own bodily integrity and the goodness of who they are. But instead they're being told that they should be questioning these things, or that they have to ask these questions.
Right.
And they don't understand how to ask those questions, nor do they understand that the fact that they don't have those questions is perfectly normal. They're actually being told the opposite, and that's badly damaging. It's badly damaging. So it's going to be a tough, a little bit of a tough road. Florida just passed this law.
Yeah, they did.
It is not legal to teach children about sex in grades pre-K through 3. And the opponents of the bill kept calling it the Don't Say Gay bill, making it that this only applies to gender ideology and homosexuality. And that's, first of all, it's not true. I read the bill. The bill just says you can't talk about this stuff because it's not age appropriate. And it's the parents' responsibility to talk to them, and it's the parents' right to talk to them. The school cannot interfere with parental rights. But we so easily get uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
The idea that we have to actually teach kids something. So we kind of pass it off to somebody else. So you teach them this because I'm not comfortable talking about it. Not for nothing. That actually happens a lot with our faith.
I was just going to say that.
That happens so easily with the way that we talk about the Catholic faith with our kids.
Right.
We think I've got to know everything so that I can answer every question.
Right.
And, if I could ever give any encouragement to parents, it's you know what is necessary to teach your kids, and you teach them best first by your example.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have the responsibility. See, this is the thing. If you look at the rite of baptism, the rite of baptism says that parents are the first witnesses of their children to their children in the ways of faith.
Mm-hmm.
It used to say parents are the first teachers.
Oh.
Right? So the language was changed in the rite of baptism.
Okay.
Fine, whatever. I think the way that you translate the word can go either way, to teacher or witness, and actually there's a strong understanding of both connotations being present within I don't know exactly what the word is
Mm-hmm.
in the Latin text. I'd have to go back and look. But the connotation of that word would be a teacher is one who witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a teacher means that you give witness to the faith. If I'm going to teach the faith, I have to give witness to it. If I'm going to be a witness, I have to be able to talk about what it is that I'm giving witness to,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the parents are the first teachers or the first witnesses of their children in the ways of faith. The Code of Canon Law outlines that parents have the obligation to teach their children the faith. They have the obligation for educating their children. They have the right also to educate their children.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the fun part about canon law, because canon law talks about both rights and obligations.
Yeah.
A lot of times right now, in the way that we talk about law in secular society and everything, we talk about law primarily meaning I have a right to do this thing. So the law guarantees my right. We don't talk so much about how law obliges us to something. We know that there are certain laws that oblige us to things like I have to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how unjust I think taxes are, I still have to pay them. I'm obliged, right? It's part of being in a society.
Yeah.
I might not like it, but there's an obligation there. But what we don't often talk about is the way that rights carry with them certain obligations. If I have a right to something, then I also have an obligation to exercise that right appropriately,
right,
and to exercise that right in a way that builds and that is for the common good. So my obligation is a very serious one. So the Code of Canon Law outlines that parents have both the right to educate their children and the obligation to educate their children, and in particular when it comes to educating them in the faith. There's lots of other things, obviously, with education. There's lots of prudential judgments that you have to make. A prudential judgment is that where you decide, okay, this is the best course of action for me to take because there isn't one way only to do this. There's multiple options. So you have the option for education, right? You have lots of different ways that you can see to the education of children. You can do homeschooling. You can send them to public school. You can send them to Catholic school. You have the obligation to make sure that they receive an education. But the education for the faith, in terms of how to practice the Catholic faith, how to know the Catholic faith, the first obligation is with the parents. But it's also the first right. Parents have a right to educate their kids in the faith. But a lot of times, and I think this is an area where the church hasn't necessarily always understood exactly what we're supposed to do. The church wants to make sure that kids are educated. So the church has an obligation to guarantee that education.
Mm-hmm.
We have an obligation to make sure that kids are well formed in the faith, that they're taught the faith, and that all the resources necessary are given to them. But very often we've sort of confused that with we have to do this and parents don't.
Yes.
Parents, you're responsible for dropping your kids off at religious ed. It's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to do a better job talking about that team effort. Parents, church, together, we work so that the kids can be formed in the faith. And this is where Catholic school, I think, is a huge benefit in that regard. But even that isn't necessarily going to be the end all and be all of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be, like, parental involvement is the key. And this is what we've seen for the last 50 years or so as religious education, CCD, the Confraternity of Christian Doctrine, however you want to see it, it's changed. And I mean, so often I talk to parents and they feel ill-equipped.
Yes.
They feel so ill-equipped. And I don't have the solution to it. But I know one of the things that we've tried here is parent sessions, trying to give them more resources, encouragement, Here's stuff that you should know that you can actually teach your kids. And then most importantly, the most important lesson about the faith that is taught is to bring kids to Mass. That's the most important lesson about the Catholic faith that you'll ever teach. If you feel ill-equipped to do anything else, just bring them to Mass and know that that's teaching them something. And then the other thing is, the more you go to Mass, you're going to hear homilies, you're going to learn things.
Right.
The kids are going to absorb things too. This is going back. I think we talked about this, the power of parents reading to their children.
Yeah, you did.
And what happens when kids just hear things. Like, think about when you go to Mass, how many words you hear, especially from Scripture. You hear these words over and over and over again. You hear the stories of what Jesus taught and did over and over and over again. And even if you're not super paying attention because you're 7 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, right? Even if you're not all that excited about being there, you're still hearing those words. Those words are starting to take some kind of root. I always remember as a kid wondering why we would say that prayer. Now we say, it is truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere to give you thanks. But in the old English translation, it said, we do well always and everywhere to give you thanks. And I remember sitting there and thinking, why are we bragging about ourselves to God? We do well always and everywhere to give thanks, but sometimes I don't do well to give thanks to God. And I'm sitting there like 10 years old going, I know that I don't always say thank you to God, and I probably should. I don't like that we always say we do well always and everywhere. I didn't understand the meaning of the phrase.
Right.
We do well, meaning it is good for us too.
Right.
It behooves us.
Yes.
Right. And then Mrs. Lozier's English class in 8th grade at St. James, when we had our vocabulary test, and one of the words was behoove. All of a sudden, I understood that we do well always and everywhere means it behooves us. It is good for us. Like, it's good for me. I benefit from doing this, not I'm good at doing this. And I went, oh, I get it now. But it took me so long. But all along, I had that thought in my mind, I'm supposed to be giving thanks and praise to God, and I need to do a better job.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't like a fearful, I need to do a better job, I'm afraid I'm not doing a good job. It was just an awareness. But I got that because I went to Mass, and because my parents took me to Mass, and because I heard those words again and again and again. Just taking your kids to Mass teaches them so much.
It does.
But the obligation is there. And I think this is where we as a church need to do a better job helping parents embrace the obligation, but also protecting the right that parents have to educate their children. And see, that right to educate their children extends beyond educating them in the faith. The right to educate your children is something that the church believes parents have by nature. And so education in everything belongs by right to the parents. So parents have a right to say, my children should learn this. I want my children to be exposed to this kind of lesson, and I am not comfortable with my child being exposed to that lesson.
Right.
They have a right to have a voice in the education of their children in the schools. And they have a right to stand up to those things and those agendas that are being pushed in the schools that are wrong.
It's kind of scary. It's
a big issue, and I believe me, I do not have the solution for it. But parents, stand up for your rights. You've got a right and an obligation to that education of your children, and what a gift it is. It's beautiful.
But so, how does support look like in those spaces?
Sure.
Because things have changed really quickly in 10 years, and I can only imagine what the next 10 years are going to be. Well,
part of the problem that we have right now is trying to make change without really understanding what some of those changes imply and what they require. This is the issue of the same thing with like the development of technology. I can do this. I can make this machine that will do this thing. I can so manipulate nature as to create this. It's Frankenstein. Just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Right.
So it's fascinating to be able to develop technologies. It's amazing what we've been able to come up with. Gaudium et Spes talks about this in Vatican II. That the development of technology is moving at a pace that we've never seen before. And that was in the early 1960s that Gaudium et Spes was saying this.
Oh, wow.
And if you think about it, okay, wow. Vatican II taking place after 2 world wars. And what had they seen in those two world wars? But a radical difference. So World War I, you've got they're still clinging to the old trench warfare.
Yeah.
But they have mustard gas.
Yeah.
They've created a new weapon. And even the guns and the shells that they're using are different than any kind of conventional weapon they've ever used before. But they're still using the old war technique. We're going to dig into the trenches, and then we're going to charge, and we're going to fight. They had not actually been able to adjust the technique to the technology. So we have this way of fighting, and we're going to continue to do, but we're just going to use this new technology to do it. And it was disastrous. So much death as a result. World War II, technology is still developing, and developing rapidly and incredibly quickly if you think of the very short period of time.
For the needs.
Yeah, but a very short period of time, and they've developed all this incredible technology, and then that continues. So after the war, between the war and Vatican II in 1962, you have even more happening with technology and with the spread of information. And Gaudium et Spes talks about that, the need for that technological development and what a blessing it can be, but also gives the very, very cautionary note that we have to be careful that our development of technology is always in keeping with human dignity, is good for the whole human family, that we've got to be careful that this development of technology isn't so far outpacing ourselves that we're doing things that we shouldn't do. Just because we can do it, we need to always ask, should we? And so ethics is such an important piece of it. Like ethically, is it good for me to do this thing? Or should I hold off?
Can I give you a tangent?
Yeah, go for it. This whole thing has been tangents. It's fantastic.
I had the weirdest email the other day that called Elon Musk.
You got that one too?
You got it too?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it was great. Okay, so we got this email.
This?
We got this email, and it was like sent out by who knows who.
To church people.
To like church people, exactly. To priests, to ministers, to Catholics, Protestants alike, and everything like that. Yeah. Basically saying that Elon Musk is
the Antichrist.
Yeah, the Antichrist. And I mean, it was wild, and talking about how his website is the platform for the. I mean, it was
visionary missionary.
I mean, it was insane, and I don't think I've ever read anything that confused me quite so much. I mean,
can I read this part?
I just want to say, like, I don't really know exactly how I feel about Elon Musk. I'm kind of fascinated by some of the technology that he's developed, and he seems like a really interesting person.
Right.
I don't think I could ever say that development of technology is in any way contrary to the faith or contrary to the existence of God. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
So this was a crazy email. So every once in a while we get crazy emails, folks. Now you know. Now you know what we live through.
It's just
every day.
So weird.
Isn't it strange?
In the way that this person like quoted scripture to support their views.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's kind of that's the way of it. Yeah. So I didn't realize that you got that email too.
Yeah.
Oh, that was wild. Yeah. That was a fun one.
They made this up. musicministry.ball@stbasilparish.org.
Yeah, that's not a real thing.
No, but this is the visionary missionary. Just got a kick out of it. Elon Musk is making a counterfeit man-like cyborg image named a dragon, which he will use to make the temple desolate.
Cyborg.
Referring to Daniel 9:27.
Look, we're mixing some great sci-fi.
Yeah, it's fine.
Scripture and a little dangerous. We got to be careful about that.
It is. So, anyways, besides that tangent, I'm glad to know that you also got that ridiculous email.
Oh yeah, that was fun. All right, so. Listen, we're coming up on the hard out for Paola. She's very important. She's got lots of things that are going on.
Not important, but I do have a lot of things going on.
Her agent is going to be really mad at me if I don't get her out of here quickly. So Paola, thanks for going on.
Well, do you have any recommendations for parents, books as to what they should read about how to educate,
Sure.
your children? Learn more about what the church actually teaches in this regard, and what to do in the space that we're in right now.
Yeah. I think number one, parents, if you don't have a copy of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, get a copy of the Catechism of the Catholic Church and start reading through it. It's really straightforward. It's really easy.
It is very easy.
And
it's just big, but it's easy.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, but it's very easy. And you'll see a real beauty as you read what the church is teaching about so many things. Then if you really want some fun, you can dig deeper by looking at the footnotes that the Catechism gives for different things. And some of those footnotes will take you to some really profound and beautiful resources. But then another thing that's really helpful, and I know some people think that I'm crazy for talking about this, but like the Baltimore Catechism, as simple and straightforward as it is, and people might object to the methodology that the Baltimore Catechism is designed for, because it's more or less designed for rote memorization. And so it doesn't really get so much at the heart.
Right.
But as a model for the way to teach kids, it's really good, because it's a reminder that straightforward and simple answers are really effective for children. We ask questions about things as adults that have a philosophical underpinning. So I ask a question about why would God let this happen, or why did this thing happen? And I'm thinking metaphysically, I'm thinking globally or universally, I'm thinking of in the big picture. A kid asks, why did this happen? And the simplest answer is the best. Like if it's a question about death, as an example, why did he die? And we're thinking, he was such a good person, he had so much to live for, all these wonderful things were going on in his life, why did he die? The kid asking that question, why did he die? The answer is, he got sick, and he got so sick that his body couldn't survive. Oh, okay. They don't need necessarily the philosophical underpinnings, but they need the immediate answer. Then you can gradually help them to come to that philosophical understanding, that deeper understanding, but they need the basic stuff. So the Baltimore Catechism provides like very basic answers to things. And it gives you some insight into just how to have very simple conversations, especially with young children. As kids get older, again, it's all about development, right?
Right.
Every kid develops over time.
That's why there's also the UCAT.
Right. And so like the UCAT is a great thing to give to middle school and high school students, right? Because it again, speaking at their level, it teaches what the church teaches. It teaches the content of the Catholic faith while also engaging some of the more serious questions. But just, I think, giving the sense that there are answers to these things. And again, most importantly, bringing your kids to Mass. But parents, if you want to be a good teacher to your kids, you've got to know it.
Yeah.
Right. We're always able to teach things that we know better. If we don't know it, we'll feel ill-equipped to teach and unable to teach. So if you take that initiative to go and learn it, you'll be able to do something with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It's great. You should just watch it.
And now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Thanks, everybody. This is Roar Like the Lamb. I'm Father Sam Kachuba.
I'm Paola Pena.
God bless you.